Welcome to Lotus Student Mentor channel. In this session we are going to study design and analysis of algorithms, concepts such as for control structures in pseudocode, and it is a part of pseudocode for expressing algorithms. Let us begin control structures in pseudocode. What is control structures in pseudocode? Number one, conditional statements, and second one is the loops. Under the conditional statements, here we are going to mention if condition, then execute statement, then else, execute alternative statement, and third one is the end if. What is the meaning of here if condition? Here if condition is useful, then here if condition under that execute statement will be executed when if condition is true, and if the if condition is false, it goes to execute the else statement. After that, further the condition is not satisfied, then it goes to end if. Let us see, whereas in the case of Python programming, if, else and elif, we are going to say that. Now let us see the examples and step by step explanation of the pseudocode. Now here if condition we used here. In that if condition, then execute a statement. The purpose of this if condition is that this checks if a specific condition is true. What will be executed? If the condition is true, the execute statement intended inside the if block will be executed. Now coming to the second step, what is called else block. What is the else block here? Else block, else execute alternative statement. In the if condition statement is false, then it goes to the else block, and under the else block the statement will be executed. Then end if. The end if is that, what is the end if? Here end if purpose is that this marks the end of the conditional structure, ensuring clarity in complex algorithms. That means if condition for end if is depends on else executive statement, else condition and if block. If both if and else if are not satisfied, then it comes to end if. And else block, else executive statement, else blocks executive statement will be executed when if condition is false. That means else depends on if. Here in this case, if, else and end if is independent and else is dependent on the if condition, and end if depends on else and if. That's what the meaning of if, else and end if pseudocode. Coming to take the example of the pseudocode by using if, else and end if. What is that? Here checking even or odd number. Let us write the step 1 algorithm. That is the name of the algorithm, algorithm's name. Now what is that algorithm names? What is the characteristics? There are 4 things are there. Architecture of the pseudocode. AIPI. What is the A for algorithm names? I for input and output. P for processing steps. And I for indentation for clarity. AIPI. In the previous video we mentioned. Now the name of the algorithm. The name of the algorithm is that algorithm check even and odd. What is the second step is that processing steps, input and output. If you are going to processing step, that if n modulus equal to 0, then it goes to print n even. If it is not satisfied, it goes to else. Then what is there? Print n is odd. Still these two are not satisfied, then it goes to end if. Now suppose if we consider it, what is the step by step execution? The step by step execution that we can understand clearly. First step is that input. What is the input? The user provides a number n. If number is the 4, if n modulus 2 equal to 0, that means 4 modulus 2 equal to 0, then what will be printed here? N is even. Now suppose if n equal to 5, what will be printed? Print n is odd. If n is odd number, then print n is odd. If n is the even number, print n is even. That means it satisfies. Suppose if n equal to 6, that means 4 modulus 2 equal to 0, it is true, then print n is even. Always remember that if condition is always must be true to execute the if block, then what will be that? The condition in the if is always must be true, then only will be executed. That print statement under the if block will be executed. If the condition of the if is false, then else, it goes to else loop, else condition, then that the block or the execution under the else block will be executed. The step 2, what is the step 2? Condition checking. What is the condition checking here? The algorithm checks if modulus 2 equal to 0, if whether n is divisible by 2 or not. If it is true, it prints n is even. If it is false, it prints n is odd. Then finally, end of execution. The end if statement signifies the end of the conditional logic. Let us take the real world applications of if-else in algorithm. Number one, decision making, that is called for bank transactions. And second one is sorting algorithms, that is called bubble sort and etc. And finally, AI and machine learning. If-else structure are used in rules-based decision making systems. These are the real world applications of if-else in algorithms. Coming to control structures in pseudocode, such as second one is loops. Here there are two types of loops. One is for loop, another one is while loop. The for loop is that I equal to 1 to n, do execute statement n for, it end of that execute statement, that for block, for loop. Whereas here while condition do execute statement end while. Please remember that for loop is a definite loop, whereas the while loop is indefinite loop. Why so? Let us begin. For loop is definite and end while loop is indefinite loop. Let us take the example of a for loop runs a fixed number of times based on the known range. Here it is the known range, that's why it is a definite iteration. So the variable I starts from 1 and increments up to n. Then the inside the loop, if it is true, then it will be the loop inside the execute in iterations. Then after that, when the condition is not satisfied, it will be ended. It comes out of the loop. Let us take the example for loop algorithm that for I equal to 1 to n, print n numbers from 1 to 5. That means n equal to 5. That is 1 to 5. What is the print I n for? Now it begins iteration. How many iterations? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 iterations. The output of this algorithm, that pseudocode for printing numbers from 1 to n, is that first iteration I value becomes 1, then output equal to 1. I value becomes 2, output equal to 2, and so on up to 5. Now let us go to the while loop, that is indefinite iteration. The while condition do execute statement end while. Let us take the explanation of the while loop. It continues execution as long as the condition remains true. Very, very important. That's why the number of iteration is not known beforehand. That's why it is indefinite iteration. While loop is. If the condition is false initially, the loop doesn't execute even once also. That is very, very important. The difference between for loop and while loop. We will execute, we will see what is the difference between for loop and while loop. Let us take the example to understand better the while loop example. We are going to write the print numbers until n using while loop. That is algorithms print numbers while n. Suppose n equal to 4, what will happen? I equal to 1, then 1 is less than, n equal to 4 and I equal to 1. 1 is less than 4, what will happen? 1 will be printed. Then I becomes I plus 1. Now I equal to 2. It goes stop. It is true. 2 is less than 4. Yes, it is true. Print 2. That I will be printed. Next I becomes I plus 1. That is 2 plus 1. 3. Then 3 is less than 4. Yes, print 4. Next 3 plus 1. 4. I becomes 4. 4 is less than equal to 4. Yes, satisfied. Then print 4. Now I plus 1. 4 plus 1 is 5. That means 5 is less than equal to 4. Yeah, false. Then end while. Loop will be closed. That's what here the example is that. First iteration I equal to 1. True. Then it goes to print out. I equal to 2. I plus 1. Then true. It goes. Output 2 is 2. I equal I plus 1. 2 plus 1. 3. It is true. 3. Now I equal I plus 1. Here in this case n equal to 3. I explained n equal to 4. Here n equal to, then it becomes I plus 1. 3 plus 1. 4. It is the false. Loop stops. Then 1 to 3 is the output for this while loop condition. Now what is the difference between, key differences between for loop and while loop. What are the key differences? Yes, you says that when the number of iterations are unknown here, whereas when the while loop unknown, iterations are unknown. The loop runs for a fixed range until a condition is false for the while loop. For the termination, when it will be terminated. For loop terminated when it stops when the loop variable reaches its limit. It stops when the condition becomes false. It runs when the condition is true. Now example is that iterating over an array, reading user input until they enter, execute that for while loop. These are the key differences. Now let us take the real world applications of for loop and while loop. The for loop applications are processing a list of students' grades, printing a sequence of numbers. For while loop, repeating a game until the player chooses to quit, running a program until a conditioner is met. Now the point is the difference between algorithm and pseudocode. There are six types of algorithms. Differences are there. Now it is the algorithm is what it is to provide a solution to for a particular problem in form of a well-defined step-based form, whereas pseudocode is not like that. It is a step-by-step description of an algorithm in code, like a structure using plain English text we are going to use. Now algorithm only uses simple English words. Here pseudocode uses specific reserved keywords such as if else, for, while, if else, and if also. Now these are the steps, solution to problem, sequence of the steps algorithm is. Now pseudocode means, it is the pseudo means fake. It is the fake codes, as the word pseudo means fake, using the code like structure and plain English text. Now for algorithm there are no rules to writing algorithms, whereas pseudocode there are certain rules are there for writing pseudocode. Now coming to differences here further, algorithms can be considered as pseudocode, but the pseudocode can't be considered as an algorithm. It is difficult to understand and interpret, algorithm is, whereas pseudocode is very easy to understand and interpret. I hope you understood the control structures of a pseudocode of if condition, and also loop, what is the for loop and while loop, and also we learned the difference between for loop and while loop, and also difference between algorithm and pseudocode. This is what example for what will happen when the following pseudocode is executed. Following pseudocode is executed means the simple example in one of the corporate questions they are going to ask in interviews. Here set integer employee number equal to 101, set integer salary equal to 0, while employee number equal to 501, salary equal to salary plus 100, display salary, and while. This is what will happen. What is the output of this pseudocode? The output of pseudocode I will explain here. What is that? Employee number is 101. Now here what is the employee number? 10, while 101 equal to 501 is no, is not. Then what will happen? It won't be executed it won't be executed because the condition is false. It won't execute. Now let us take systematic example, step by step execution. I am going to explain here. If employee number double equal to assigned 101 or compared 101, that's what meaning is. Now I'll condition two conditions. In this condition equal to 101, it won't execute. Now employee number is set 101 and salary is. Now you understand, employee number equal 501. This is an assignment instead of the comparison, which may cause unintended behavior depending on the pseudocode syntax rules. Now if assume the correct comparison operator should be double equal to, that means if employee number is 501, the output becomes what? If employee number is 101, so 101 double equal to 501 assignment, that is false. The condition is false at the start. At the start, the loop never executes. Now loop execution, the body of the loop is incrementing salary and displaying does not run at all because the condition is never true. When it is assigned, this what? Condition is false. We are going to here. Now the condition is that if it is equal to, that is mentioned here, what will happen? It goes to infinite loop situation. It won't execute depending on the language's behavior. Now if it goes to, if double equal to was intended in this code, then what will happen? Then nothing will be displayed. That is what the output of the program. Here the question is equal to, what will happen? The program into infinite loop. It won't be executed. Okay? The program produce no output. That's the output of this pseudocode. I hope you understood the example of the pseudocode for campus placement question I have explained. In the next videos we'll do more and more these campus placement questions related to pseudocodes, various types of questions like Infosys and Capgemini and etc. Thank you for watching. This is also another question. As the output of this program also, this is what Infosys pseudocode. You can see it, that the answer is 0. Yes, thank you.